Just completely give up on full screen ever working on slides. All right, we are live. Twitch, I'm gonna hit the button, see if this goes big on your end. It probably won't. It did. Did the slides change today? Maybe they do. All right, we have the technology. Today is October 22nd, 2024. We are here at CSE466. We are currently, midway through a module entitled Program Exploitation. It's kind of like a midterm, combines a lot of the stuff we've talked about so far. Memes. So as I mentioned back when we had Rev, Yon85 will make appearances again and again. Somebody before the stream started here made the comment that, hey, these program exploitation levels are very much like Baby Rev 22.1. They are, but it isn't, if I remember right. I think that one required you to do some like blind side channel stuff. We don't make you do that in these levels. If you are doing that, you're definitely putting in a whole bunch of work you don't need to. But they are challenges that take in Yon code. So this is the first juncture. We're having a Yon code assembler and or disassembler, which hopefully you've realized they are very much kind of the same thing. It will save you a bunch of time. So if you don't like Yon85, which tends to be the prevailing thought, this is you. Congratulations. If you have made it to the end of this course, this is somebody who just happened to finish something that you'll deal with later. In MicroArch, there is also Yon85. So that's something to look forward to there when we talk about speculative execution and things that you can't debug, and then we throw Yon85 at it as well. Somebody is quite happy that they're finally done with Yon85. You know, maybe you'll get there, but it won't be in MicroArch because you'll see Yon85 again in system execution. And in general, I'm sure that was sarcasm. I was going to say sarcastic, and it came out that way. But you know, Yon85 really isn't that bad. Easy memes, easy points, right? Post some memes, get some extra credit. Hopefully, we're on board with that right now. More people banging out Yon85 memes, right? Yon85, we saw it before, we see it again. Yon85 reverse engineering, hey, it comes back, we're doing the same thing, consistent theme. This one, you know, at least we're doing something a little bit different with Yon85. Some people have asked about how do I escape the VM? Like, you know, the VM is some mythological thing. You know, it has these parts that we don't understand. That's not true. Like the Yon85 VM or Yon85 CPU, that emulation layer is C code. It's a binary that we can reverse engineer. We can understand how it works. We can look at what's going on in memory and reason about its behavior. Right? A virtual machine is still just a program at the end of the day. Even if you were looking at a more advanced virtual machine, we'll think like VirtualBox, at the end of the day, it's still just a userland program, right? And so you can apply these same concepts to it. Don't let the fact that it is a VM be this spooky, scary thing, because it hopefully part of this course is revealing that these things aren't really that spooky or scary. So we said this module is kind of like a midterm, right? So we're combining a bunch of things together. We're writing Python scripts using pwn.tools. We are reverse engineering. We should be using memory corruption. There's some shell coding in here, right? We're putting all of the pieces together in this module and hopefully doing stuff that after you've done it, you feel like, hey, this was kind of clever, right? It was something kind of interesting and new. Where the earlier challenges were very much like, here is what you do, right? This does require a bit more critical thinking and application. What do I got here? I can't read that. It's too large. Unsure if I should feel cool navigating the stack and avoiding canaries, or feel like a complete noob since the challenges are called toddler. Yes, so the challenges do have a progression, right? In name, we have baby, we have toddler. That isn't just the midterms for this course. Midterms are the only things you'll see that will be toddler, right? It's kind of learning to crawl, learning to walk, learning to stumble. Somebody on the Discord asked, you know, hey, what is the applicability of, I don't know what level it was. It was something with a linear buffer overflow. Like, how much does this match stuff that happens out in the real world, right? It's totally fair to say these challenges are somewhat contrived, like they kind of have to be, because they are meant to teach you specific concepts and make you practice very specific skills, right? When you talk about exploits in the wild, they're much closer to what we're doing in this module, as far as a lot more moving pieces, or a lot closer to what you see in heap or system exploitation, where the path to kind of gaining control flow is a little bit less clear. And if you carry on from this course to CSE 598 in the spring, you'll get to see more convoluted scenarios where we give you more tools. Again, you throw at it, and it's now up to you to kind of navigate that maze, right? Well, we could keep going from toddler to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing, right? It's just how convoluted do you want it to be? When we're trying to teach these kind of foundational concepts, it absolutely makes sense to keep these relatively simple and straightforward. This was a 365 beam. However, one of the things that I comment on when I talk about grades is that these are people who have solved at least one challenge of the current module, right? Well, there actually is like this hidden subset of students who still have not registered, like linked their ASU account to pwn.college. And so I kind of assume that you're not doing the material, but I don't know because I don't know who you are. So there's like 10, 12 students, I believe, that have not linked their pwn.college account to ASU. So you don't show up in the grades data. I don't know if you want a grade or not, but if you don't link your pwn.college account, you won't get a grade. And that will be unfortunate. So here's your midway through reminder. Course schedule. I didn't change this around because I said we're going to change, probably might change some stuff on the back half. I think I have another slide that touches on what we're going to do. And right now we are here in program exploitation. Cool. I do. So next module, I am going to push back kernel. I don't want it to be an issue where we launch something late because of infra related things. And kernel, if we don't get stuff squared away, it would be like, you think right now is slow, you have no idea what slow is. Okay, so instead, we're gonna mess around with race conditions, is the next module that's gonna go on Friday. One of the nice things about race conditions is if the computer is slow, it's actually good for race conditions. Fun fact, because you're racing things, right? So the busier the computer it is, the busier the computer is, the easier it is to cause kind of these timing things that you'll be taking advantage of in that module. So we're going to do that. Hopefully kernel follows. If not, we'll play it by ear. But hopefully it'll be race then kernel. I have said, and people have memed, and they are scared, and they tell me, no, don't do this. Right? I've said there's going to be new program exploitation challenges. They're not live yet. I'm aware of what the deadline is. I'm aware of what that means. I don't intend on being like, here's some challenges. You have 3 days. So either like I'll launch them tonight, at which point I think that's fair game. You got a week. Or I'll launch them late, and what I'll do is I'll make the module requirement be, say I add 2, I'll make the module requirement be 2 less. So therefore, that would be 2 over 22 or whatever. If you completed all of the modules assigned there, that would be extra credit for you. It turns out, like, if you just think about like what I am probably doing here, is I'm messing around with Yon 85, I'm messing around with heap, I'm messing around with ROP, and how I can play around with these concepts. So like one of the things that I have to do, which I've at this point implemented several versions of, is figure out what does the heap look like in Yon 85, right? And so I think I have a version of the heap on Yon 85 that I like. But one of the problems there when you're writing challenges is making sure that things are not too exploitable or too vulnerable to unintended exploits. So like I wrote an implementation of the heap where you could get these pointers and then store them and like move them around. But a side effect of that was I gave you the ability to like write to a heap pointer or read to a heap pointer. Well, at the end of the day, what you're really doing there is you're just reading and writing to a pointer. I essentially just give you this free arbitrary read, arbitrary write, and it made these challenges like super not interesting. So instead, I came up with a different way of implementing the heap that I have right now. We'll see. but yeah, I'm not going to add them and then like destroy your grade. So like, if that's what you're worried about, don't be. Okay, like that is not the intention. Hopefully, you guys realize I'm really not trying to be a bad guy. All right, with that, demo plans. I'm a little light on demo plans. So is there anything that you guys specifically want to talk about? I'm always open with that. Yes.
There is one challenge where there is only one syscall, and I looked around Discord. It just says you have to stay on the board in IDA, and after that there is file descriptor something here. Worry about.
People are really hung up on file descriptors. That was Tuesday's thing, right? People asked about how do I make Yon85 call open without open, and we had this like ramble that was kind of bait for the immediate question, but it did touch on some things that are useful in later challenges. So I can talk a little bit about file descriptors, and to your I have to stare at the code thing. This last bullet here says less demo, more ramble, right? I'll touch on that on the next slide or two, depending upon what I left in here. So I can kind of get you where you want there. I'm not going to answer your question, but I can talk around it with this. One of the things that at this point, hopefully people have realized, people understand that the environment variables live on the stack and this shifts it, or is this just like this hand wavy thing? I got some thumbs up and I got some not happening. Okay, cool. I got like a canned 3-minute demo that can show that hopefully. So let's do that real quick first. All right, so we are here on the dojo. I have some binary a dot out, not check. I want check sec. You'll notice that this is no PIE, right? What does PIE impact? This is something that people always get confused. What is PIE? It's the difference between PIE and ASLR.
ASLR is enabled by the system, like OS, but PIE is for the binary. If it is enabled, then it will use ASLR. If it is not enabled, it will not use ASLR.
Okay, it's close. So to regurgitate here, PIE is a compilation option of the binary itself that enables the binary to be randomized. ASLR is a like system configuration thing at runtime here, where the kernel or the system will try and randomize addresses. So if ASLR is enabled, which this is, and PIE is not, the binary is not compiled with PIE, then the addresses of this binary must be fixed. This is like the world's most advanced binary. All right, I don't know if we can really cover this one today. I have a main function. It has a buffer. I then print f the address of this buffer. That's it. So if this binary does not have PIE and ASLR is enabled, do we expect this address, which is just the address of the buffer that's showing here on the stack, do we expect that to be consistent or do we expect that to change, and why? Okay, somebody says consistent. Anyone disagree? Does anyone think it'll change? All right, you got a hand, you're squinting.
Yeah, but that's because I did the levels and I think environment variables are gonna.
I'm not going to mess around with environment variables. I'm literally just going to go ./a.out. There's not going to be any trickery here. All right. The problem is like if I do it, you'll see what it is, right? So there's one run, maybe. Okay, that's what I get for building this, planning this demo on a different computer. Okay, so we recompile it on the computer that we're on. I get this address. If I go up, enter, do we expect this to be the same or different number? Same? Everyone's saying the same. That's a shame. Because it turns out it's going to be different. We just talked about this. What does PIE allow things? PIE is a compilation option that determines whether the binary, when loaded in memory, is randomized. Where is the stack? Is that in the binary? No. Is ASLR enabled? Yes. Will the stack be randomized? Yes, because the stack is not in the binary. The stack is a separate region of memory. It was a trap, and I got you all. Okay, so if we look at this in GDB, the binary is all the stuff here that says temp a.out, right? That is the binary. That is the thing that is at this fixed address that has 44,000 or whatever. The stack is chilling all the way down here. It has nothing to do with the binary. The stack is just a region of memory that we're like, yeah, man, we're going to call this the stack, and we're going to do stack stuff here, right? So PIE has nothing to do with the stack, or the stack address being randomized. You hit my trap card. That one felt good. So we see that this is randomized. Oh, do I remember the secret option? I do. I think I remember the secret option. And this is the ancient yawn wisdom that he has when he talks about ASLR and PIE memory corruption. You can disable ASLR temporarily using setarch on the command line. So if I do this, I've started up a new bash session where I have disabled address randomizations, what that -R is doing. Check out man setarch if you want to read the details. Now if I run this thing, we are consistent. It has nothing to do with PIE, it has to do with the fact that I disabled ASLR. Now, the thing that we're trying to get to here is the second bullet here, environment variables shift on the stack. Is this something I care about if the addresses are being randomized anyways? Not really, right? Because that change in the address is it's a drop in the pond. Some shift in stack addresses doesn't matter when it's being randomized anyways, right? Who cares? I can't guess it or know it deterministically ahead of time anyways. But if ASLR is disabled, then I can deterministically know where the stack is. For those that don't know, you can define environment variables by just declaring them on the terminal before you run a command. Okay, same address. Now it's something different. It's gone down by 16 bytes, hex 10. Why? Well, how many bytes have I added here? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay. So whatever was in the environment, 13 was enough to shift the environment variables. Let's see if we can print this out. Make this a void star. Let's examine like 8 giant hex at that address. And then let's examine the string right here. Okay. So where are these pointers located? I just happen to know that there's environment, right? These are stack addresses, right? Have you ever written a C program and then you begin with main? Maybe. Go in this demo. It's your boilerplate. Do I have to have this just be main with open close parens? No. I can get access to argc, argv, and then envp, where envp is an environment pointer, right? And these are things that I can interact with in any C program. Oh, where are those environment variables stored? They're stored on the stack. And so we see, and you say char star star envp, right? And so I cast this to a void star. I know it's a pointer to an array of char stars, which means this is a pointer to a bunch of pointers. And that's where when I dereference this first one, I get this shell variable. And these are all located right next to each other. So I should be able to do, I don't know, 10 strings starting right here. Look, we found them. And if we VM map this, it is located on the stack. We're at the beginning of main. If we print the address of RIP, oh, actually, no, I lied. We're at underscore start. But that's fine. So we are a little bit before main. But if we were to print RSP, we do see that E930 is less than EBF9. Remember, the stack goes down. So these environment variables are above us in the stack. And so when we have more environment variables, they have to be on the stack, which then pushes down our RSP. How can I deal with that? Probably using pwn tools, so let's do that. Was this a mistake? Maybe. From pwn import star. T equals process a dot out. P interactive. All right, so we're just running this thing. Somebody had to have figured it out, right? This is something you guys had to deal with in the first half of the challenge. Just how did you deal with it? Clear the environment variables. How do I do that here in pwn tools? Cool. So the statement was inside of P equals process. We can say env equals an empty dictionary. That's going to make the environment variables empty. Therefore, it is now a known constant, which means what I observe here will be true the next time I run it with the same environment variables. Now, one of the things that people got hung up on is I do this, I always do things in practice, right? I'm here in practice mode and I get this value, but then I can't get it to work in challenge mode. Why? It's the same environment, right? So one of the environment variables is hostname. Hostname is just what is the name of the challenge environment that you're in. In this case, I am in practice mode, so it is practice squiggly program exploitation level 1.0. What happens if I start this same challenge in regular mode? Where am I? Program exploitation 1.0. My host name is different. It is now program exploitation level 1.0. I lost the word practice. How many letters is practice? P-R-A-C-T-I-C-E-A. Probably enough to shift the stack. That's why when you were using GDB in one version and then trying to use it in challenge, these addresses weren't working. Fun fact, if you do use GDB on a challenge, see if I remember how to do this. I don't know. I don't even know what I'm debugging now. What is it? Environ? No, I'm a liar. But GDB itself adds an additional environment variable by virtue of being GDB. I want to say it's underscore. So like if you did something like env I GDB a dot out, and then you were to check the environment, there's a special environment variable that GDB itself adds that will then shift the stack. So how do I deal with that? I should be able to debug this thing and get a sane thing I can reason about, right? So I could, the statement was I could subtract 8 bytes. I could. It's probably not 8 bytes, right? My guess would be it's a multiple of 16. But we could subtract 16 and just say, okay, I think that, right? But now you're kind of guessing checking, right? Which sometimes Like a brute force is just a really efficient guess and check, right? Sometimes a guess and check is the right tool. But we can do better. And this goes back to something that we talked about way back in like reverse engineering. We were talking about the various ways that you can debug a process. So what most people have probably gotten in the habit of doing is something like this. Right, we use GDB debug and we run this. This will then fire up GDB, except I don't have an a.out because why would I?
In the debug,
Ah, yes. Now it's just sound. Oh, I'm not even where I think I am. Okay. Cool. So then GDB starts up here. This is equivalent to me doing GDB demo a.out. Right? And we can see that if we were to take a look at the process tree, we'd see that GDB right here is what is starting up a.out, which means that it is going to influence and change the environment variables there. But what the key here is that we need to create a consistent environment here. So now I'm not using GDB debug. I am starting the challenge process from my script. It is always starting with an empty environment. It doesn't need to be an empty environment. It just needs to be a consistent environment. Well, we have a known state that the process is in. You'll notice over in Pwn Tools here, it does say the PID, PID 347. In another terminal session, we can sudo gdb a 347. I'm not in practice mode, so this will fail. But if I was in practice mode, this would attach GDB. When GDB attaches, it is not going to insert anything into the environment variables. It's not going to change anything. We are debugging the exact known state that we are going to be exploiting. And so hopefully this is what you did. Instead of just like arbitrarily finding some Discord message that said subtract 8. If you did, that's cool, but I'd like to at least tell myself that you guys are aware of why that was occurring. So that was my little detour there. The other thing I have here is less demo, more ramble. So in office hours that I do on Friday, we had kind of this interesting discussion because people were done with 6 and starting to get to the Yon 85 challenges, right? They're like, this is all easy. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that, right? The earlier challenges, earlier modules, not earlier challenges of this module, earlier modules that we had, there was a fixed thing that we were talking about. We were talking about memory corruption. Everything was memory corruption. You had an idea of what to do. We had a module on ROP. You know that you're going to be overwriting the return address. That's what ROP is. So you have an idea of what your strategy is going into it. Similarly with heap, heap is a little bit more complicated than the earlier 2 concepts there, but you still know that I'm messing around with the heap. I'm trying to get this pointer, right? The exact mechanism inside of the heap that we were using might be different, but you knew what part of the program you wanted to target. And that isn't true in this module. There's actually kind of this meta skill. Let's reason R. That's how far I got, guys. We have this meta skill of identifying vulnerabilities, right? I know I typed more than that. Okay. But you have this meta skill of trying to identify where is the vulnerability of what is going on, all right? And we ran into this in office hours because I don't like to look ahead and cheat because that is no fun for me. And then you guys don't get to see, for those of you that do show up to office hours, you guys wouldn't get to see me reason about the problem and think about it. And so I want to try and repeat to some degree that process. All right. Just out of curiosity for those that are here, who has solved 7? Okay, less than half. All right, one of the people that asked about 7 have a burning passion for file descriptors. So I will talk a little bit about file descriptors once again. It's not used in 7. It's not used in 7. This is me making sure that I knock this out before I kill 45 minutes. All right. So I said on, what was that, last week? Thursday, Tuesday? I don't know what day it is. But you can create a file descriptor in Bash by calling exec a number. I then use this diamond operator. The diamond operator is saying I want to open this file descriptor for read and write. And it's going to be pointed at temp A. And just as a recap, if I cat proc self, fd, not cat, I want to ls, we see that 8 is in fact a file descriptor that is now in my current process and in turn in child processes. And 8 is pointing to temp A. And in general, file descriptors inherit from parent to child because when I run lsl proc self fd, what process am I inspecting? Self is not a process. ls, that's the correct answer. It's not actually my shell, right? ls is looking at itself. So we see that file descriptor is inherited. And that is the default behavior on Python. I'm sorry, not Python. It is not the default behavior on Python. It is the default behavior on like a Linux system, on C, in insane worlds. Let's make this thing. Oh no, we will read 0 into buff 1. That makes sense. I don't know what I need to include, what is it, uni? Yeah. Okay. So now I have this cool program that blocks so I can give it a bite. It's really all I need, right? Because we want to be able to look at it. Now, we said that, where was I? Which terminal? Which terminal has 8? Not you. You. All right. If I run a dot out here, let's find out. Let's use the correct tool. Oh. We can lsl proc 593 fd. Look, that inherited the file descriptor. Because that's the default behavior on Linux, on C, on general rule of thumb, what one would expect. Now, if I'm on that same box, and we use IPython, Python would do the same thing. I'm going to use pwn tools. This behavior is not specific to pwn tools. I'm essentially doing the same thing the shell is doing, right? I'm starting the process, and it's chilling here. What would one expect? One would expect the same default thing that I showed you. Python does not do that. How can we figure out why? Normally, I'd say read the man page. The equivalent here is read the docs. Does anyone see anything up here that looks like it might be relevant?
Close it.
Close FBs. So, this is actually something that is inherited, or that default of closing is a behavior of subprocess of Python, not Pwn tools just arbitrarily deciding that. And so by default, when you start up a process with Pwn tools or subprocess, it's going to close file descriptors. What do you think I need to do? That's right, we make close FDs false. If I do this, now we can use full fancy bash. Oh, still can't type though. Apparently not. Oh, there's more than one. It's all over. But we see now it does have capital. And so that's just a super simple gotcha, right? There is a challenge where this is relevant. You'll know it when you see it. It is not level 7.
So is it we can deterministically know the file descriptor for the flag, because we can open arbitrary file descriptor and see its number.
The statement was, so we can deterministically know the file descriptor for the flag because we can deterministically open up file descriptors and then make some process inherit them.
Flag, like any arbitrary, because we can't do the flag, I guess.
Yeah, we can't do the flag.
But we can do any other file.
So we can do any file that we could open anyways, right? This is insane bash syntax for the equivalent of me writing in C, open some path, and I get a file descriptor, right? I'm just specifying, and then technically I'm calling dupe2 to make to specify what file descriptor I want. Or in Python, calling os.open. Just calling open in Python is actually a little bit higher level, although you can access the lower level underlying file descriptor as well if you want. But the thing that gets returned from Python open is Python's file, not a file descriptor. And then just for completeness of something I said, dupe2 is a system call that is used for duplicating a file descriptor from one to another. So you can call dupe to get a copy, get an additional file descriptor that points to the same thing. Dupe2 allows you to say, whatever I opened, make it be this other number as well. Okay. Questions, comments, concerns, and does that just answer all of your greatest questions about file descriptors?
That's fine.
It does yours? All right. That's what matters, okay? So, let's take a quick look at 7. So, not seller. See, do I have more slides? No, that's all we got. Let's reason R. Okay. So the intention behind this is, well, what are the things that we want to do when we first get a binary, right? Well, what is our workflow? What does this look like? What do you do? Just run it. I like it. That is my preferred way of being investigative here. I like running things. I like playing with it, I like seeing what we can do. So I got this challenge. It says we're in a Yon85 emulator. You're in control. It tells me I can input some Yon code. I gave it some garbage. It's going to print out the stack. Tells me a frame pointer, return address. Says, hey, it's teaching. And then the Yon code machine starts printing out the interpretation. Apparently, whatever I typed started to actually encode correctly, just by dumb luck here. All right, well, what else? What have I learned?
yarn bytes.
Okay. It requires yarn bytes. For specifically solving like CTF challenges or our pwn.college challenges here. If there is a hint, that's definitely worth thinking about and looking at, because this is something that the author is imparting knowledge that you would not otherwise have. It tells you cluster VM. We know that. It says injecting shellcode. What kind of shellcode is it talking about? Shellcode? Yarn code? How do I know? Is that a hint? Check sec. Right. If I don't know, again, I haven't gone deep down the rabbit hole. What do I know? What have I gained? Right. The stack is executable. So shellcode is something that is a tool that I have in my tool belt. Right. The very first thing you want to be doing when you're looking at this like arbitrary binary is what things are just in the realm of possibility. Right. If this said NX was enabled, shellcode is probably not something I even want to consider or think about. So it's probably talking about real shellcode because the stack is executable. What else do we see by looking at this and running checksec? There's no canary, and there's no pi. So what does that tell me? What does that gain me?
Buffer overflow attack is going to be pretty straightforward.
Okay, so a buffer overflow is quite likely here because and we're not that it's likely, but if there is a buffer overflow, and I think I started with this on like last week Tuesday or whatever, last week Thursday. I tried to buffer overflow this thing. Let's just read in a bunch of bytes, right? Was that successful? Okay. Was I thinking about the right thing? Yeah. And just for completeness sake, we'll ram in a whole bunch of bytes into this thing, and we see that it crashes due to unknown register. And when we look at where did our cyclic bytes go in our printout here, we do see them, right? And here's our cyclic value. I'm going to save a little bit of math here. This is less than 4,000 that it read in. So there isn't an overread right here. What else should I look at or think about? That's my next step.
IDA.
All right, IDA. Now I'm normally not the strongest advocate of using IDA, right? However, it is a great first step when we're trying to just understand what is going on inside this program. I got something here from Twitch here. Any chance I could take a peek at level 9? You think the solution involves open reading and writing the flag. However, I can't figure it out. Okay. I'm going to ramble about this. The problem with like that question and your question, right, is I can tell you what to do, but are you gaining this skill of like looking at something and identifying where an issue is? Answer is no, right? And so I'm hard pressed to be like, oh, this is what you do. But what I can do is I can tap dance around here on level 7. But I can talk about various things that we look at, and we play with, and what we're thinking. And hopefully, by applying those same skills, you can figure out what to do in level 9. Yeah. All right, so I'm here in IDA. All right, what am I interested in? Where do I want to look? And I want a reason why. I don't want you to just be like, oh, I want to look at putts, right? Like, tell me why. Where do I go and why am I interested in it?
find where program starts, like the main.
Okay. So that's one approach. It's not what I would do. The statement for Twitch here is I'm going to start where the program starts. So I'm here, I'm in main. Okay. That's not where I'm going to go. There's a hand over there. What were you thinking?
So we know this is a Yaw 85 challenge, so let's maybe start digging around looking for some opcodes and some like syscall value stuff like that.
Okay. So that is something we'll have to do, right? That's labor that is hiding behind this problem no matter what. For Twitch, the statement was, we know this is a Yaw 85 challenge. We know that there's a Yawn code involved. The Yawn code challenges are randomized every time. So let's go and start decoding these bytes. So this is a help level. It has the super nice describe instruction function. So we might go here and say, hey, look, 2 is immediate, 8 is add, hex 20, so 32 is this stack operation, right? Et cetera, et cetera. And we could take down our notes for that. And that is something that we have to do, right? Because this challenge takes in Yawn code. But that doesn't get us thinking about the vulnerability, right?
Just kind of thinking back to before IDA, so we tried to throw in a bunch of bytes and we can't reach the return address. So that's kind of the big issue we're like looking at, is like, oh, we send in all this bytes, but we can't quite reach the same grid, and that's what we want, at least for a potential attack, right? So, but what does happen is when you write into that region of memory, it runs Yawn code, and we do have Yawn code has syscalls in it, and I'm thinking maybe we can abuse the syscall and Yawn code some way that we can just get to that saved RIP and overwrite it with something that we want.
Okay. Have you solved this level?
I have not. This is just me thinking.
Okay. No, that's fair. I just want to make sure, because I wouldn't have made that same leap personally. Like that wouldn't have been how my thought process went, and it isn't how it went on Friday. But I'll repeat in some form. Wait, you said, because I'm sure Twitch can't hear you. So the statement was, hey, what we do have is the ability to run Yawn code bytes, right? Maybe I can't ram all of these to the end where I want, but I can ram them into some form that'll get the Yawn machine to do something I'm interested in. One of the things that I can do is trigger syscalls from within Yawn code. So let's go look at that. Now, this is the important question for whether or not we're thinking the same thing here. Why are you interested in syscalls?
For me, the reason why I'm thinking about syscalls is because I already dug through. I started this challenge not too long ago, so I've dug through some of the IDA. And I know I forgot a little bit of Yawn 85, so my understanding might be a little fuzzy here. But I know that we will try to read into a region of memory. I forgot if the Yawn 85's read syscall actually calls read. But if it does, then that's really powerful, because we can just write whatever we want into a location and try to potentially overflow it quite a bit.
Okay. So the statement was, I'm not entirely sure what was going on. It's been a while since I had to look at Yawn code, but I seem to recall there being something that allowed us to read. And so we see here we have read code, and this, in fact, calls read. And we did end up thinking going to the same place. My logic was a little bit more primitive. Mine was, what am I doing over here in the terminal? I'm ramming a whole bunch of bytes into it and just being like, hey, what happened? I still want to ram a whole bunch of bytes into it. Is there anywhere else where I can ram in a whole bunch of bytes? Right? You kind of high level, hey, syscalls, you're fancy. I'm just like, no, man, bytes go in. Where else can bytes go in? Right? Because generally speaking, and this isn't like universally true. There are plenty of exceptions that I could like create and show. But the like quintessential example of a buffer overflow is usually an overread, right? It's scanf, it's read with some large size, and we are reading larger than our buffer. And so what I am interested in is if I can't get too much, I can't get where I want from here, where is another read call or scanf call where I can get more bytes into this thing, right? And so it's a bit more, you know, caveman logic, but we end up in the same place. We're like, okay, where can I call read? So I can call read code. Do we like read code? Do we know if we like read code?
I'm trying to remember the syscall argument shenanigans.
I don't care about this syscall argument shenanigans. Like, if we're looking at this right now in IDA, and it's fine if you're like, man, I don't know what that's doing. Like, it's fine. I don't either, right? I don't like reading IDA decom. Does anyone know what this is doing? Can map this what I want? No? Neither can I. So, wait. Let's be smart. Let's not start with a bash one-liner.
Just kind of thinking aloud. So we know the read function in C takes 3 arguments, and then file descriptor probably is gonna be from standard in because just safe to assume. And then we have a buffer and a count. We have control over count, pretty sure, because in the disassembly we take that from just like one of the registers.
Okay, so the high level thinking there for Twitch was read takes 3 arguments, which is true. If we take a look at the man page, the first argument is a file descriptor, second's the pointer to the buffer, the third one is the count. Looking at this IDA shenanigans over there in interpret sys, it does look like, where was this? Read code. We are able to influence these values. All right. So can we make that do what we want? Well, we could look at this IDA code and try and make sense of that. I am not a fan of that. I am going to just ram some bytes in. So this is A2. I know that this is my VM struct from Baby Rev. This should be my set of instructions, my 3 bytes. And if we look right here by looking at A2, scrolling down, we see that if A2 is hex 40, we'll notice that this isn't hex 4000. It is in fact comparing against the first byte of that sequence. So I'm going to just like venture a guess here that if I'm parsing this right, the first byte that I want is a hex 40 to get into this interpret sys. Right? If I'm wrong, whatever. We can change it. Like, we'll see what happens. Now I want to trigger this read code. What do I see here in read code? It's that same A2, but now it is checking against 00, followed by a 2. So the first byte is 00. It's doing an AND operation. Right? It's not doing a direct comparison, which is a little weird. Right? It's a logical operation. But okay, so if this second byte happens to be 2, then we go here and we try and call, I guess it would have been open, but it yells at us and says no. If the second byte of this thing is a 1, well, is that what it's tracking?
Yeah, 0, 1.
It's checking for equality?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know, man. Like, but that. Okay, I want this to be. If I make this a 1, it'll call read code, though, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, we'll do that. So let's set that 1 there, and then the third argument
Is a register.
is a register.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just going to trust you on that. So I'm going to find
It's to have the output of because read returns a file descriptor.
Read register.
A sounds like a great register, so let's give it hex 04. And for those that were like, hey, where did that come from? This is a helpful level that would print this stuff out. And so this described register function literally just says if it's 4, print the first character of this string. If it's 64, so it's at hex 40, print the second character. It's indexing into this array. And you're like, oh, how do you know that's A? Well, if we double click on it, what we'd see here is this is the literal string, literal ASCII string, ABCDSIF. And so it's indexing into, when we're accessing the first character, it's A, indexing with index of 1, we're accessing B, etc. Hopefully you came to that conclusion during Rev. And so we can use this as a quick location to map encoding to register. All right, so hopefully I have something that's going to throw that in there. Yeah? What happened? Did I break it? Oh, okay. So it encoded something. And our first instruction here is, in fact, sys1a calls read code. The return value in register A is 0. What happened?
Can you show the function?
I gotta find it again. It's hiding from me.
My thing is I kind of want to GTB it and
You wanna-
put a breakpoint on read.
Okay.
So I can get like, oh, hey, look, I'm at the read in my syscall. Where does it put the input buffer? Where's this input buffer?
Okay.
That's kind of my line of thought right now.
So I would probably do that. Don't think it would be, I agree. Like I would probably do this myself. It's not going to be particularly useful since I can see the future. But we can certainly do it. So this is the first read. This is our read inside of interpret sys. I'm just looking at this call stack here. So this is the functionality that we've triggered. What I might be interested in is RDI, RSI, and RDX. So we are reading from standard in. We're reading to this address, which is what you were interested in. And we are choosing to read 0 bytes. All right. One thing I may be interested in is where is this address? And if we were to take a look at this, it's E470. Did I get the printout of this thing? No, the printout is going to be hiding up here. E470 is in our E4. 7. Going up. It is in our current stack frame. It's this top row right here, E470. Okay. What do we know about Yan code or Yan 85? What is like the size of values? I know it's a weird question because I phrased it poorly. What's the biggest number I can work with in Yan 85? What? FF, right? Because it works on bytes. So that means the biggest thing that I could possibly put in that read call is 255. Do you agree? Okay. There's 255 bytes from that location going to get me where I want. Not. Now we could have GDB'd this and we could have came to that conclusion a long way, right? But we could have dumped out a bunch of giant hex from the address that we had in read, and then done like an info frame to see how far away they are, and hopefully we'd come to the same conclusion. Uh-oh.
That's pretty feasible.
Is that right? Well, no, I'm in read. I'm in the wrong frame. I need to go to the frame of main. So frame 4, info frame. And it is not. So that's a gotcha, right? You saw me do it right there. I info framed, but I realized looking at the call stack, I'm inside of read, right? And so the return address of read doesn't really matter. It's we're doing the wrong math, right? The frame that the challenge prints out is the frame of main, which we could see if we were to look at IDA, grab main here. This is the frame that it is calling this dump stack, which we don't have to go into. We can just trust that this is the thing that's dumping the stack and giving us that printout. So if the help text is focusing on this particular stack frame, that's probably the stack frame that I am interested in. So that doesn't get me where I want. Any other thoughts? Are we thinking incorrectly here? Or is our logic flawed? This is a common problem, right? You're looking at this challenge, you're like, hey, I think this is it. Why can't this work? Do I just keep saying, no, it is IDA that's wrong, right? And bang my head on this? Do I just throw GDB at this until the end of time? What do I do? Give up? Look up on the Discord?
Yeah.
DM the instructor and say, please, please, please help me? What is the answer? What is my next step?
Can start understanding the other arguments.
So we could, the statement was we could start understanding what these arguments?
Yeah.
But we know these arguments. I printed them out in GDB.
No, I mean what they do. I know the answer.
This is a file descriptor. This is a buffer. And I know this is a Yon code value that can be no larger than 255.
But we can manipulate that buffer starts.
You're saying I can manipulate the buffer start. Yes.
So we looked at the count, but we didn't look at the buffer.
Okay, so we looked at the count. I made this assumption about the count, and no one's challenging me there.
Yeah.
But what about this buffer?
Can we investigate that now?
Okay, that is something we're thinking about here. So what is going on here is taking the address of A1 and it's indexing that by 3 times some argument.
That is register.
Right, that's going to be a register value if you spend some
Yeah.
time with Yon 85.
I think
So,
it's B. Yeah, I think it's B.
it's probably B. It would make sense if they were in order.
A is 1024, then B.
Okay, so you're saying that we can move this buffer 3 times B. All right. I kind of like that idea. But when I hover over this A1, right? Or not hover, but put my cursor there. We see that it's used in some other calculations. Anyone make sense of what that's doing?
That's the N85 memory, right?
So the statement was, well, that's the Yon 85 memory, right? Well, okay, let's see. Well, we know the first argument to these things is always this pointer to this Yon VM struct thing, right? You see this Yon code memory. So it is dealing with something relative to the memory. And that makes some sense. If we were reading into it, it should be a pointer into its memory, right? In this case, we're calling read code, so it should be reading into the code section, right? Where the instructions are. But what else does this A1 influence? It's influencing more than just where this buffer is, right? It's 1025. I guess that'd be A1 1025 that I want to look at.
Register C and V3.
So V3 we said is the size, which at most could be 255. So if V3 is 255, what is this if right here? What are these two lines doing? If 3 times whatever is in B is less than the size, then we're setting V3. And we're setting V3 to be 3 times 256 minus whatever B is. Now this looks a little weird. And this may be a bad time to be on Twitch, because that seems like a weird set of operations. Can you make sense of it?
You can use the buffer by setting the size of the read call to the buffer.
Okay, so you're correct. Were you just able to see that code and reason about it? Awesome. You're a good programmer. No, like that isn't necessarily intuitive right away when you look at it. That's where looking at decomp is its own skill, right? Trying to understand logic. Did you hear what was said?
Prevents you from like, so Yawn 85 has its own memory space, and that kind of just stops you from like, hey, I'm gonna exit this memory.
Yeah.
And just
So-
do whatever.
So our statement here, kind of recapped, I'm never saying what students actually say, right? Is if V3 is our size and A1 is influencing where our buffer is, or not A1, but 1025, right? Our B register, I guess. If the buffer moves forward, this is shrinking the amount of bytes that we can read, so that we'll never read past that 255 limit. So it's a good idea, right? Well, we're still sticking to our guns here that the key is to somehow get more bytes into this thing, right?
Well, move where the bytes are.
Well, okay. Or move where those bytes are, right? But we're still focusing on these like read, where we can take in input. And I think that's a good kind of initial assumption, right? We know what our target is. It's the saved rip. We know once we have saved rip where we're going. Where are we going?
Right after.
Anywhere we want, but at a high level, where do we want to go? We want to go to our shellcode, right? So like we've already figured out most of this puzzle, right? We know that somehow there's an overflow. We know we can overwrite the saved return address, and we know where we want to set it to. We're not going to like try and romp libc here. We don't need to do that. We have shellcode. And does this work if I go? Okay, it does work if I do that. Thank you, Ida. If I hit, like put my cursor on read and hit X for cross-reference, it will cross-reference and show me every location where read is called. Because I'm still sticking to that philosophy, right? Like I don't think I'm wrong there. But we pretty much ruled out read code, right? But there's another one just below that, which Ida conveniently showed me is 5 lines below. But it may not necessarily, in general context, they may not be right next to each other. We have read memory. What do we notice about read memory?
It doesn't have that check of like, oh, are you going to the scope? It's just, hey, look, here's the location of register B. Let's add 700, or let's get the contents of B, add 768, or what could be a different number, but 768 because it's right there, and we get the address of that, and that's our buffer.
So there's another call to read, except it's not doing this bounds check that we had up here in read code. So maybe that's
It's exploitable.
exploitable, right? Oh, do I need to sit here and decode all of this and figure out exactly what's going on? Oh, okay. I had a working idea. I need to change this from read code to read memory. See if Python wants to work in the last 5 minutes. What do I got to change? I need a hex 10 instead of a hex 1. I think we can do that. What else do I probably want to do?
Set some registers up.
I want to set some registers up. Okay.
Because if you send that payload just as is, it'll read nothing.
It'll read nothing. Reading from standard in. Not SI. There's my buffer. By the way, I'm reading 0 bytes. So I need to fix that 0. Does anyone by chance know what that is? V3 is AL 6 register C. Okay. So let's go find describe register. A, B, C, going with a 16. So I know I need 16 for the register. What instruction do I probably want? Immediate. We got 2.
Shouldn't we set our registers first and then call?
Yeah, you're probably right. That'd be a smart thing to do. I don't know that that's the order I need.
I think for 7, it's the opcode and the arguments are just like natural. So it's like first is opcode and then
You have no guarantee of that. Let's go with FF. Let's just see if that works. All right. I mean, it should be immediate. 10 was my encoding. 2 for immediate. 2, 10 from describe register. I'm guessing that's C, right? 16 is hex 10, and then we're going with FF. Great on read. What I really care about here is RDX, which I have set to FF. All right. Now I want to see, does this actually get me where I want to go? I said 255. Exited normally. What am I doing wrong?
It reads from spot memory, so when we need to put append that within the first payload, because it'll immediately read that memory after you call read memory. The whatever B is plus 68.
So I set C. I haven't done anything with B.
Well, that's where.
Okay. So I need to set B.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's see if we can do that. And when we look here, we see all my A's, right? I'm actually getting close in the printout up here. My A's are getting mighty close to, that's probably the same terminators, or I guess. So I don't need to get it much further, but we could. I'm going to leave it there. Otherwise, I've just solved this whole shebang for you. But do you see how we had a concrete kind of reasoning system through this? There was a reason we went and did something. I didn't just grab strace. I didn't just grab GDB, right? I do like this high level, what do I know? Okay, here's a piece, something I can do. Shellcode. Here's a piece. There's no canary. So maybe there's some memory corruption on the stack. Okay? So then it's, how do I pull that off? Now did I go and look at interpreter loop? No. Did I read all of main? Did I start at the beginning of the program and march forward? No. I have a hypothesis based upon the information I have. I go out and answer exhaustively exactly that question. If you don't take this type of approach when you're trying to solve these challenges, you will spend forever right here. Not specifically right register, but in some function that has nothing to do with what you are interested in. Because you're trying to understand functionality that ultimately doesn't matter for what you are trying to accomplish. So that was my takeaway there. For those on level 9, I hope that was beneficial. Nothing from Twitch there. You guys got anything for me? All right. Oh, wait, yes.
Can you just quickly explain the read code, the math that was happening there?
Oh.
I'm not sure I really understood it.
Sure. So when I was messing around with this idea in office hours, I didn't understand the code, right? Like we were looking at it, and I was like, I don't know, man, what's going on here? And I ended up having to draw it, right? I drew like, here is this region of memory. Okay, here is a pointer, and that was the way it made sense to me. But just looking at the code here, it's a little bit harder. We know V3 is our size. So we're going to call you size. A25 here. We're going to call him footer 25. He's not really, but I would have to make IDA show this nicely. I would have to actually turn this into a struct and then identify that the byte here is a register. I did that way back in like baby Rev. And so this is my poor man's footer. What we have here is we get the size from whatever 26 is. There is a base pointer, right? When we call read, the second argument is RSI, which is the pointer to the location in memory that we're going to read into. Now, IDA makes this a little bit messy, but what we have here is our value in the register times 3, right? Our footer 25. So this distance into Yon code memory. Because remember, Yon code memory isn't a full 64-bit pointer. Yon code memory is only 255 bytes in size. Because everything is working on individual bytes. And so when we call this a footer, this is really some value between 0 and FF. You agree? Okay. Do you have an idea of why this 3 is here? It's like this arbitrary constant, right? Why 3?
The start number of bytes in an instruction.
Yes. So the statement for Twitch is there's 3 bytes in a Yon 85 instruction, right? There's the instruction encoding, there's arg1, there's arg2. It may not be in that order, but they're each 1 byte in size. And so what this is saying is we're going to read into the code section, right? But we don't have to start reading in at the beginning of the code section, right? What if I want to read 5 bytes into the code section? Can I do that? Well, it doesn't make sense to read 5 bytes into the code section because an instruction is 3 bytes in size. And so what we're specifying here in our whatever register this is, right, is the number of bytes or number of instructions, I guess would be the correct way of phrasing it, the number of instructions into the code section I want to begin reading. Do you agree that that's what's happening here with this read?
Yeah.
Okay. So if we've ruled, we have an understanding of what this footer 25 times 3 is, and we agree what size is. The question is now, what is this if check? Footer 25, we said this is, and it is accessing at 25. So this is the number of bytes into the code section, number of instructions into the code section we want to access. If we take 256 minus that, that is telling me, think about that, we're starting at the end of the code section and we're counting backwards, right? 255 would be the end. We start counting backwards. We multiply by 3 because we're counting instructions, not individual bytes, right? So if the end of where we're going is less than the size, then we set the size to be something smaller. The something smaller is 256 minus that size. And to me, it makes way more sense to draw it. That's why I was amazed that this gentleman was just like, oh yeah, it's being limiting, it's shorting. What it's doing is it's checking to make sure that you aren't moving the where's the goalpost? You are moving this buffer such that the size overflows the bounds, right? So it's making sure that the buffer pointer plus size has a limit. So if the buffer pointer increases, then the max size is capped. That's why it's setting the size, right? Because in theory, my biggest size, this is what we kind of started with. We said, hey, the biggest size I can put here is 255, right? It's not 255 bytes away. All right, we can't do it. And then somebody said, hey, we haven't looked at how we can influence where we start reading. And if in theory here, I could set this to be 255 as well, because that's the biggest number I could put. And so what I would try and do is I'd say, all right, let's start at the end of the code section, and then let's write 255 bytes. And this is stopping me from doing that. May not have been the greatest explanation, but did it?
Yeah, I understood the concept. Yeah.
Okay. Like for me, I really would rather just draw it. I like pictures, but they don't translate well to Twitch. Good question though. Because like we spent some time exactly on that. Like, all right, what is this thing doing? And to me, it makes sense to draw. All right. With that, I'm now over time, but I appreciate everyone hanging out. Hopefully that was useful. I'll let you go. Goodbye. Good luck. See you Thursday.